Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright, and I'm so excited because today I get to share another exclusive video training lesson from our Business Boutique Academy. Today's lesson is part one of an interview that I got to do with my mom. Many of you have asked questions about her story and how she did it, how she built a business and raised a baby and all the things. Well, we actually answer all of that in today's lesson. You can check out part one of my interview with my mom. Hey guys, and welcome to what's going to be a very special video for me. I'm so excited about today's interview because I'm sitting here with the reason Business Boutique even exists. She is the woman who I learned values and integrity and character from. It's because of her that you all know me to be persistent and scrappy. I am who I am today because of everything that she and I overcame together. Y'all! My mom, Darlene Thurber, is here today. Mom, thanks so much for being here on set.
I was just thrilled.
I know it's out of your comfort zone, but this is going to be so fun because honestly, these ladies feel like they know you already. And they've heard so many stories from me all along the way. And certainly you have been at our Business Boutique events in the front row, cheering so proud. And now you're here joining our Academy audience. And I'm so excited because they're going to get to hear a lot about what this whole journey has been like from your perspective as the mom, as the business owner. And so let's just start with a quick, easy question of what has this been like for you? Like it's been 2 years, I guess, of Business Boutique since we started the brand and the events and the podcast and the book. And a lot of it talks about you and talks about your cake shop and your story, which is, of course, my story. So let them hear from you. What has this whole kind of recent journey been like for you?
Well, it certainly has been very surreal. It doesn't seem really like it's actually happening sometimes. I look up see the pictures and all of the people getting excited about their projects and what they're doing and their hopes and their dreams. And it's very, very exciting for me. It seems like it's almost just hard to believe.
Does it feel cool to see how your cake shop, which was 35 years ago now, has been an inspiration and a catalyst for now, like you said, so many women starting businesses, growing their business. Like that's got to be a cool perspective and a cool seat to be in to see how, when you started that 35 years ago, you would have never known that would have been something that inspired thousands of other women to do what they love.
Well, that's very true. And even whenever we first started, I think that we were very kind of ahead of our time in a way when we first started because it wasn't that familiar for people to do it. It was a new kind of a new concept. Deliveries and different things that we did was a new concept. And so I think it might have helped along the way. And then at this point, it's just exploded into so many exciting stories. So many, when I go to the Business Boutique and I'm sitting on the front row and they find out who I am, they come by and say,
they want your autograph.
They say, please just let me take a picture. Please, can you get me backstage with her? Because, you're her. I was like, no, I really can't. Oh, you really can. You can take me back there. And so they are just like, well, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about this idea? And it's just so exciting. It's so exciting.
It's really cool to see the camaraderie that happens at these events and people are
yes.
talking and mingling and that type of thing. And I know many of you in the Academy experience that even with each other connecting. And so we love to facilitate that because as you know from experience, business can be lonely and, kind of forging your own path can be scary. So take me back to the beginning. For anyone that read the Business Boutique book, they've heard the cake shop story. They've heard it from my perspective as the little girl. You'd pull me out of bed at 2 and 3 and 4 in the morning and you'd, wrap me up in blankets, which I remember vividly, drive me down to the cake shop in that old van, which all the seats were out of the back of the van because you'd make deliveries and we would totally sleep back there on road trips. I don't know if I've ever told y'all that before, which is not safe, but in the 80s, we totally got away with all these things that you could never get away with now. And we loved it. We'd play board games and play and stuff. And you'd go down there really early to bake when it was still dark out. And I have so many memories of those early mornings and late nights and being in the cake shop. But let them hear from you. For take yourself back there, which I know is a long time ago, but you had a baby and you needed to do something. How did this whole idea even start from your perspective?
Well, when I was really, really young, I had got on a little blue bicycle and ridden it down the sidewalk and gone to the first place I came to for a job. I was 15 and it was a little florist. And so they said, no, get out of here. No, we don't need any help from you. And no, I don't know anything about flowers. No, I don't, like, get on out of here.
Yeah.
So then the next stop was a little bakery. So I went in the little bakery and very persistent, of course, as you said. And I said, no, I don't know how to make cakes. And no, I don't know how to bake cakes.
I'm not qualified at all.
Don't know how to bake pies either. But, I really will try really hard.
Yeah.
I really will try. They were like, rolling their eyes, I'm sure. And then they said yes. So I was like, oh, wow. So I just flew back home on my little blue bicycle, just like ecstatic and very, very excited. And so
this is your first job.
The very first job. And so fast forward after that, I'm 35 and 33 actually, I think. And I was like, okay, so I'll fall back on what I know that I know I can do. I know that I'm comfortable with this idea because nobody can question my ability to do this at least and do it well. And so it was interesting because my very first objective was, where can I go that no one else is? Because I was very funny about it was that when I was a little girl, there was a little hamburger joint, and we always went to it. And the very next day, there was this huge multi-million-dollar hamburger joint that came in next door, and I never liked them. I thought they were just so mean to come into the little hamburger shop that was already there.
You were always pro small business,
So I was like, no. So I wanted to go somewhere where no one else was, because I thought I don't want to compete and I don't want to get in anybody else's business, literally. So I said, so there was a little bakery that was inside of a huge department store that was closing the very next week, and they were having an auction of all of their equipment. I was like,
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, I don't remember any part
And so I got a map out of Nashville, and I looked at all the bakeries in Nashville, and I tried to find where there was no one was there. And because of the hamburger place,
right.
I took them real seriously.
Sure.
So I thought downtown, of course, downtown.
Oh, yeah.
Downtown was
Big time.
Downtown was the scariest place you could possibly be.
Sure.
Downtown is not like downtown now. Right. Downtown then was like a scary place to go.
It was. I remember.
And, it was a very scary place. And so I remember thinking, but across the street was this big, huge department store that was closing, and their bakery was closing. So I called the little bakery, and they said, yes, it takes 24 hours to get a cake written on. I was like, 24 hours? I can do that in 7 minutes. No way. This is not good. This is not a good thing. There's a market here.
That's
There's a market here. So they closed on January the 15th. And so I saw this little shop, this little tiny candy shop, and there was 2 windows, and one of the windows was just dusty and nothing was going on in it, just a bunch of old displays just kind of pitched in there. The other window was real cool. It had ice cream cones and chocolates and looked real, real nice. And so I just walked in and said, I want to lease your window, the unattractive one. I didn't say that, but I said, I want to lease your window. They're like, what? I was like, yes. I said,
it's not for lease. You're like,
this is a business.
Right.
We've been here since like 1921. Like, where did you come from?
Right.
And so I said, they said, besides, nobody's here to talk to you right now. I said, well, I can talk to them later.
Mm-hmm.
You know me.
Sure.
I can just talk to them anytime.
That's right.
Anytime.
That's right.
Well, they're
Actually, I'll just camp out until they come. I'm not planning on leaving, so let me know.
So anyway, they said, well, they're gone. They'll be back in 3 weeks. And so I said, okay. 3 weeks, then what time on 3 weeks? And so 3 weeks later, I walked in the door and I had displays, all kinds of really cool displays with their logo on it, the Candyland logo, all about them, and I said, now I won't be any trouble at all. That was an understatement, of course.
Right.
But I said, I won't be a bit of trouble. And I said, I'll just do everything right here in my window. I have my own little phone, my own little window. And they said, well, you can't fit in the window. I said, well, I'll build out the window where I can fit in it. They were like, well, no. I said, I know all about construction, which of course that was kind of like
you've been saying that since, and you don't know a thing about construction.
But I love hammers. I do.
Sure.
I've always
you love to pretend to know about construction.
I kind of want to do construction.
Right.
But
that's your next business.
So anyway, they said, well, you could talk to them then. So I said yes. They said okay, and so then they said that's going to cost you $100 plus a percentage. And so I had said, I'd already told them what I wanted. And they said, well, what about, and then they said, what about having a meeting with the man that really owns the building? So I said, okay. Then he said, he said, we'll do it for this amount. And I just kind of froze. I was like, and it wouldn't make any difference what they had said.
Right.
If any figure they would have said, I would have said, that sounds perfect.
Right.
I would have never negotiated. I would have never been like, because I had no
Didn't
position.
even know. Right.
I had no position to negotiate, really. And so they said, okay, and so that's it. So I would go in there at night. It was snowy. It was in January. Nobody was there with the cleanup person. And the cleanup person knew that I didn't know construction.
Right.
He didn't say one word.
Yeah.
He never told the owner at night what was going on.
Right.
when I was trying to get the saw to work and didn't know how to do it. Sure. And so the next thing I knew, I had this little U shape just for my body to stand inside of, and I was off.
Isn't that great?
I was off. I was ready.
So I love hearing the story because we've talked about it obviously over the years, but you almost kind of take for granted that that's my story, and there are pieces of it I don't even know. So, for example, I didn't know that you put the Candyland logo on the cakes.
Oh yeah, when I first went in, because I was trying to get their attention that I knew what I was doing, and also if you always talk about them, if you're doing something that gets their attention, like. I didn't have anything going on for me at the time. It was all about, so it was them. So I put and they were like, oh.
But here's what's so amazing, Mom. But what's so cool is, okay, so these ladies have heard me teach on a variety of subjects for, months, years, whatever. And all of the things you did are all of the things that are really best business practices. But you didn't even know that back then, which is so crazy. Like, you knew what your competition was. You found ways to be resourceful and scrappy. I teach you guys that all the time, to go buy this equipment of this place that's going out of business. You looked at a map to see where the bakeries were and found a spot where you're solving a problem that's not being solved, where there were no competing bakeries. You called, and they take 24 hours to write on a cake. It takes you 7 minutes. You're like, that's a unique position. I can do things fast. Mm-hmm. And then I never knew this till right now, truthfully, that you put Candyland's logo on your cakes, which, y'all, I teach you this all the time about. All your customers ever care about is what's in it for them. So you always talk about what they care about. And if you're trying to get your products in stores, or you're trying to lease a Candyland window, you talk about what they care about, what's in it for them. And that's what you did, which is so amazing, because you didn't have business training. Like, a lot of this for you was intuitive. You're naturally, obviously, entrepreneurial. You're naturally scrappy, persistent, all of that. But I just love hearing those themes, because you did 30 years ago, 35 years ago, what people teach, what Donald Miller is, writing a book, Story Brand, about, your customer's the hero, make it about them. And you did this stuff before any of that stuff was cool. You just did it intuitively. Okay, so talk to me about this time in your life. Like, those are the steps you went through to actually get your little cake shop built and build out the window. What did you feel like? Like, how did that feel at the time of having a baby, starting a business? You're going back to something you did when you were 15. You could have just gotten a normal 9-to-5 day job. Like, what were some of your emotions around that time? Well,
it's so interesting, because I think that whenever a woman, I'm very pro women, of course.
Sure, y'all see where I get it.
Mm-hmm. But like, to give you an example, for instance, a woman, when she's by herself, can do anything. She can do anything when she's by herself. Okay. Now, because she can stay up all night, she can stay up all day, she can work all night, she can do anything in the world when she's by herself. But when you've got a little tiny thing that's looking up at you like, hello, like the time that I sent out, a taxi cab to buy the milk because I was out of milk.
Oh, I forgot that. That's right.
Yeah, and you were like a tiny baby, and it's like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to bundle her up when she's sick and get in my car and in the snow and try to go get some milk? No, it's like the desperation. It's a different kind of feeling, because it's not you anymore. It's all about trying to fit everything into that the demands on you. Mm-hmm. The demands on you. It's so frightening, really. And so that was the biggest thing, that it was just a whole new world. Completely about how to react and how to manage and everything.
It was really truly like survival mode, for you. It was
I just took one day at a time. I was just like, like, to give you an example, whenever I first started it, and every question he asked me, I just had a glib answer for. Well, like he would like, well,
you mean the owner?
Yeah, the owner. So the owner, like, he'd be like, well, now, how are we going to get our money? I said, oh, you're ringing up everything. Mm-hmm. You're handling all the money. Right. Well, what could he say to that?
Right. Sounds good to me.
So it wasn't like he would be like, I was going to, I tried to act extremely confident.
Sure. Even though you were probably making up those answers in the moment he asked you, right?
Yeah. It was really great because of the fact that I was trying my best to think of the answers that he would think of. Sure. He would ask me for. Because you try to, that's the whole key to everything, is putting somebody and put it in their position. Put yourself in that position. And so everything that he was concerned about, I tried to already have an answer for that he would be at ease about.
Right. But I love it too, because, and you've always been like this. I've watched you do this before, where you give an answer that literally you're making it up as you go, but you're so confident about it. Yes. Even though it's like, I know construction. Do I ever? Let me tell you. And you did this, this was probably a few years ago. I can't remember, but we were in the car and you were taking an order. But you've done this, like you could apply this to any scenario, right? Like, okay, this is so funny. This is what she did. So she gets a phone call for, it was like someone wanted a cake for steeplechase. And their question was, do you do cakes for steeplechase? And you're like, absolutely. It's called the steeplechase special. We include little horses. It comes with 3 balloons. You built out this whole scenario in which you literally made up on the fly. Right. Like I don't know that you'd ever done a steeplechase cake in your life. You're like, oh, it's the steeplechase special. Of course, it's $75. The cake is this size. It comes with horses, balloon. You built the whole thing. And I was like, that's amazing. Like you were so confident because it really was about just, we're going to figure it out. Like let's make the promise. Let's promise we can do construction. Let's promise we're going to make the money back. Let's promise all these things. And then not only did that light under a fire under you to deliver on that, but you just figured, we'll figure it out. Like I'll find a way to make this work. I will create the steeplechase special that I'm making up right now. I'll follow through, but you've just got to win them over and be confident. And I love that you really have always had that perspective. Looking back to how scary that must have been. And there were a lot of really fun times and a lot of funny times. But there was also like scary times. Like to your point, downtown Nashville at that time was scary. Yes. We would go down. I remember you used to always like keep a butcher knife with you. Like I thought
it was the biggest butcher knife I've ever seen in my life.
Ever. But I'm like, if someone's close enough for her to use this knife, like we're in trouble. She always had a butcher knife. But it's just funny because there was a lot of scary times too.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I've talked on stage about there was a time we went down to the cake shop and it had been broken into.
Yes.
And we didn't know if someone was still
there
inside and how scary that was. It's pitch black outside. You know, we're alone. You're a single mom. I'm a little girl. And that was scary. What do you think was key for you of pushing through the fear, the doubt, and just the scary, hard, challenging times that we experienced all along the way?
Well, I think that sometimes when you start something, it can be the smallest deed that you start. It can be the smallest thing. And you really don't think that you don't really think that it's going to last forever. You're going like, well, things will turn around. Something will happen great. I'll start a new invention, and it'll be great. And this will only be a temporary thing. So you just think that you're just going to start it off real small, but then all at once it has a life of its own. Mm-hmm. It has a complete life of its own. Your customers are wanting what you said that you could do, and if you can't do it, then maybe you'll get an employee that can do it. But it creates its own snowball effect.
Yeah. And you just kind of follow through.
You just keep on, and you just keep on going.
But that's an interesting point because some of those initial first steps seem so insignificant.
Oh, absolutely.
At the moment you're like, there's nothing really that impressive about this one step or this one act. But I love, even as you tell the story, there's such great business teaching out of this because I talk to you guys all the time about the importance of the first step. Just take the first step, and that fuels your confidence for the next step. And then I love what you said. It does take on a life of its own, and then the fifth and sixth steps are so much easier than the first step because then it's rolling, and people are raising their hands saying, "Hey, can you make a cake for steeplechase?" And you just kind of keep up with the demand. Okay, so you have some stories. Like you have some 35 years in business. You have some amazing stories, hilarious stories, weird stories, funny stories, awesome stories of cake shop day. So it doesn't matter which one. Let's just share some of the funny stories with our listeners. Any of them that come to mind?
Well, one of them it was my birthday, December the 31st, and you were in a school play.
Okay.
And it was a really big deal.
What year was this?
There.
Do you remember how old
I don't know,
was?
but you were little. It was probably like maybe you might have been like 7 or 8.
Okay.
And so you said, now, Mom, now you've got to be there because I'm in the play and I'm going to be great and, it's going to be great. And I'm going to do this little show and you're going to need to be there in the audience. I said, of course I'll be there. Of course I'll definitely be there. So I was on a deadline to open up the cake shop like 2 days later. And so I had decided that I could personally put down 2,000 square foot floor tile in little squares. I thought, how hard could that be?
Because you were moving locations, right? Okay.
Yeah. Now, first of all, about moving locations, the Nashville Historical Society would always ask, where are you going next, Darlene? Because wherever you're going is wherever we're going to, it's like you're the little yellow canary. That's like we're going to send you down the mine. And if the yellow canary comes back out alive, then that means that they're going to tear the building down. Because wherever you go next, wherever you go next, Nashville's going to lose that historical building. So we can just go ahead and count on where's Darlene's cake shop going to be next. Yeah. Well, it had been moved like 6 times, right? So,
and none of them were by choice, right?
No,
like every time you were kicked out because they were tearing the building down. I totally forgot that.
So it was so funny. So so this particular time I was on a real tight deadline. I was like, I can do this. I mean, I can just get those little pads for your knees, so your knees don't hurt. And it's kind of like a cake, just kind of lay those little pieces of squares down. It won't be that hard.
Kind of like a cake.
And so I had lots and lots of glue on my show. I remember just lots and lots of glue.
I remember the smell of it, literally being down there.
Oh, it was just so sad. And
this was the white and black, right? Floor tile, yeah.
So I said, well, I thought now I can still make it. I can still make it to the play-in time. So I think my sisters took you so you could be there to get dressed, everything. The only thing my job was to do was just show up. And I remember I put on this really bright red and exciting Christmas dress that just looked like something you would wear to a wedding. And then glue was all stuck. And all I did I just had my arms so that my glue wouldn't stick to my pants. I'm so
proud of her. Look at her up there shining on stage. That's amazing.
So it was just ridiculous things like that, and I was always trying to be there for whatever you were doing.
Right.
You were always into something.
Right.
So I had to be the one that cheered you on. And so that was it.
It's so funny though, because so I guess I was maybe like 10 or 11 when this happened, but when you talk about the buildings being torn down, a very vivid memory I have, which is saying a lot because my memory is terrible, is when, was it the Batman building? Not the building that was there before the Batman building that they knocked down, and we made that cake out of a balloon. Do you remember this?
Yes.
Okay. So
that was a very innovative idea.
I know.
It was. It really was.
It is even today.
It was a baby bottle.
I remember.
It was a big baby bottle.
I know, I remember. So what's so fun is Mom has so many creative ideas, and y'all think I'm creative. Like, she has so many ideas. And so you were booked to do this cake, and you had a regular cake for them. Yeah. But she took is it Mylar balloons? So back then, and I guess they still have them, it's these giant balloons in the shapes of things. You can get them today for your kid's birthday party, like a Mickey Mouse or something. Well, this was a baby bottle. And so we took the baby bottle, turned it, blew it up, and then turned it upside down. So if you imagine the top part of it's down on the cake board, and taped it, like duct taped it, smashed it down. So it just looks like a block, a big rectangle block. Well, then Mom decorated that balloon as if it was that building with icing, all the little windows, glass, doors, everything. The whole board looked like, the pavilion out front and that type of thing. So we walk in, Mom and I together, to this big executive meeting of they're smashing the building and this is the last celebration. And we walk in with this cake. They think it's a cake. And so we're like, oh, we're so excited to serve the cake. Well, Mom let me do the cake cutting, which was so cool because no one knew what was going to happen. This is the only cake we walk in with. And so like, oh, okay, everybody's around with pictures and that kind of thing. Like, we're going to serve the cake. And I put the butcher knife into the cake, and the whole thing crumbles. And it did it kind of slow motion because of the icing, the weight of the icing. And it crumbles in, and everyone's like, ah! It was like this amazing moment that I got to be a part of as a 10-year-old. And then, of course, they roll out the real cake that people are going to eat. But it was like, you have so many amazing stories of times where you created moments like that. And I love talking to our women about this is a lot more than business, and it's even more than your product. It's about creating moments and memories. I guarantee you, people talked about that, forever, of how cool that was to see that happen. And that's one of the 35 years worth of stories and memories and that type of thing.
Well, you just don't know when you pick up the phone and answer the phone for your business, you don't really have any idea what's going to be on the other side of the line.
That's
it
right.
Could be, it's like, when you start a business, you're supposed to have a manual. And in the manual, it's like, if the customer says this, you say this.
Right, a script.
Hey, that never really worked for us because it was just like, you never knew what they were going to ask for. Just like the time whenever they wanted me to come out and a big advertising company was going to do this huge photo shoot of a monkey jumping out of a cake. And the monkey was going to be throwing money out when he jumped out. And my job was to make the cake, but it had to be a big wooden cake that the monkey could really get in. So I was like, okay. And they said, now your job is to be sitting here while the shoot is going on.
In case anything goes wrong.
Because things are going to go wrong.
No, are you talking about a real monkey?
A real monkey. Oh, yeah. A real trained monkey, hopefully real trained. So anyway, I'm there.
I don't remember this at all.
I'm there, and I'm just sitting there, and I've got my icing. I'm really bored, y'all. Then the monkey comes out. He throws all the money away around. Then he starts to eating the icing, and then I have to go repair the icing. So this goes on for.
Make this up.
This goes on, and it was like a really, really, really a big, huge production. Lots and lots of money was behind this monkey, and the whole thing. It's a big, huge radio station. So anyway, so they said, now, darling, we need you to come back tomorrow because we didn't get through. We're going to have to do the monkey again. I was like, okay. So I came back the next day. Then they said, now we're going to need to book you again for July the 4th. I had this horrified look on my face. I said, July the 4th. He said, yes, you'll need to be here July the 4th all day, sitting here with the monkey, with the icing. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I already have plans with my daughter, and like fireworks and picnics and watermelon. They're like, no. We're sorry, but you're the person, you're the monkey person, you're going to have to be here. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to be able to come. Yeah. And so that was the first time I think I ever said no to my customers. I was like, no. Yeah. No, because sometimes you'll just have customers that are just ask you for too much. They just go over the line. They're going over the line. And so that was over the line. So we went and had our July the 4th picnic and I don't know whatever.
And never looked back.
But they never called me again.
I don't know what happened to that monkey. Hope it worked out.
They never wanted me again. I think that was just it.
That was the end of it. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Speaking of, I always use your example when I teach our women, especially at events, to fire their crazy customers.
Yes.
And I was like, you don't have to be mean about it. I was like, Mom is so nice when she does it. I was like, when she is, doing a wedding consultation for a wedding cake. And I was like, typically people think it's bridezillas. I was like, it's not. It's really the moms that are the problem. My mom has noticed it's the momzillas that get too involved and want to live through their daughter. And I said, but Mom can spot it a mile away now. And I said, she does it so nice. I said, this is how she does it. She says, I get the feeling that I'm not going to be able to make you happy. And I want nothing more than for you to be happy on your wedding day. So I'm going to recommend you go somewhere else. I was like, isn't that the nicest thing? I was like, but she still fired them. And it's amazing how through 35 years in business, you've learned what the crazy customers are, how to set boundaries, how to say no. But it was through trial and error and kind of figuring it out as you go.
Because I think in today's market is a different world too. The customers in today's market are much, much more demanding. Mm-hmm. They're much more, they have such high expectations. Back then, they didn't really have, they were just like glad to get anything I did. They were like, oh yeah, you're our only hope, so we'll take whatever you can do. Right. It's not that way anymore. Everybody it's very competitive, and people are very much more, have high expectations of what they want.
It's funny though too, because you've changed in business. Like I think I could share this behind the scenes, but like even how you were 20 years ago versus now, like now because you don't have to do this, you just do it for fun and because you love it, you're a little bit like the soup Nazi. Someone acts up, you're like, no cake for you. Sorry, no cake for you. No, you're misbehaved. You're rude. No, you're too demanding. No cake for you. Like it's so great.
But it's so much easier. It's so much easier to do it then than after they start crying their eyeballs out about the color of the roses aren't the right color pink. Right. Then it's better to do it first, but then have to worry about it later.
Well, and save yourself the headache in the process. Totally.
Yeah, because
that's so funny.
Especially today when people will be like, well, I saw this cake on Ace of Cakes, and I want it just like that, if you don't mind. Now, my budget's $35. I hope you don't mind. And so I'm just like, well.
No, you got a call when you were in the car with me in The Voice the other day, and I hear her, asking all her questions. Okay, how many people, and what's the occasion, all this stuff. And I think you told me they wanted like a 5-tier wedding cake style. It wasn't for a wedding, but a 5-tier style, something like Ace of Cake, something they found on Pinterest. And you're like, okay, great. How many people do you want to serve? And they're like, 6. Like, right. You got a tier per person. Like that doesn't work. My budget's $20, whatever. So funny.
So it is a different world though. In business nowadays, it really is, and you have to really move with the times. And so I think that's a good quality to have.
What do you think, just as far as being a woman in business, and obviously all of our Academy members are women in business, and they're doing this, whether it's a product-based business like cakes or a service-based business like organizing, graphic design, they're trying to start or build or grow their business in today's market. What do you think are some of the key qualities you've got to have to succeed as a woman in business? And I don't want to make this like a women's issue, like that kind of thing, but specifically, they're balancing exactly what you talked about, like the glue on the arms and a fancy red dress. They've got kids at their feet, sick kids. They've got a lot of demands on them. What do you think are some of those qualities that are really important to have if you're going to pursue growing a business as a woman and with all these demands?
Well, I think that you need to take a nap when they do.
Mm-hmm. Everybody says that. Mm-hmm.
And but I think that the main thing is that you just have to be really, really try to be super focused on what you're doing at the time and not be able to even think about what's happening next. You just have to be, can I just get through this right here? And the other day I was thinking about this interview, and I was thinking about the fact that I feel like in business sometimes when you're a woman, if you had a stack of cards and you said, okay, like, who's got the ace? Mm-hmm. It just feels like sometimes that your customers always have the ace. you don't have it, your kids don't have it, your husband don't have it, no one else has it, but your customers have it. So you have to really watch that, because sometimes I feel like that, their demands on you, can be, like you said, it's just like it starts out so simple. Well, could I have a cake in 7 minutes because I forgot my granny's birthday? And I'm like, sure, we can do that. We can do that because I can actually ice and decorate one in 7 minutes. Yes, you can. They're like, well, okay, that sounds great. That's what I want to do.
Right.
Okay, well, that'd be great. But now it's got to be round. And her favorite color, her favorite colors are purple, and I needed to have it delivered to her because I'm in Texas.
Right.
I'm like, well, no.
Right. Things have escalated a little bit. Yeah.
So I'm just like, so all at once you've gone from saying, so when you say yes the first time, you've got to be sure that you could say no a couple minutes later, because that was like, that's not what I bargained for. I just said yes to a cake right now in 7 minutes, but I didn't say anything about Texas.
Purple and Texas and round and all the
So
things.
I think that's the main thing, because otherwise you can be sure that you try to keep your cards close to your chest and be sure you don't get, too overwhelmed by everybody else's demands on you, because if you don't watch it, your customer can become, their urgency can become your problem.
Right.
As soon as you tell me that you've got a problem,
right.
like say for instance that which really happened to me, a lady called and she was crying at 6:00 in the morning because the person that was going to do her daughter's wedding cake that night was very, very ill and wasn't going to do the cake at all. And all at once, as soon as she told me that problem, it was my problem.
That's right.
It was my problem. It was like all at once, my daughter.
Can you save the
it was
day?
all at once. It was my daughter that, what would I do? What would I do? How would I feel? And so sometimes I think just, having a lot of empathy for your customers is good, as long as you just don't go over the edge, which I have before.
Yeah. Which I have before just a few times. Looking back at the last 3 decades in business, what are some of those projects or cakes that you're the most proud of or were the most interesting? I love the cake, the building crashing one that they were going to knock in. You did the Corvette Museum. Tell them about that one. That was cool.
Well, that was really, really exciting. The person called me from a big company and said they were going to have the very first grand opening anniversary birthday party of the Corvette Museum after it had been actually, built. And that the person that made the Corvettes was going to be there. The man that actually designed the first Corvette, he was about 90 or something. He was going to be there, and everybody was going to be there. Dignitaries were going to be there. They said, we want something really, really super impressive. So they said, well, how much would that be? And I said, it'll be $5,645. I just thought that sounded like a great figure.
You just made that?
No, because I just thought, wow, that is so much money. They said, well, that'd be just fine. I was like, okay. Okay, so I thought this is the biggest cake I've ever made. I hadn't even made it yet. I was like, oh dear, this is so frightening, darling. Now, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go?
You're going to figure that out later.
What are you going to do? So anyway, so it was really, really fun. It was really, really beautiful. We had to carry it up in 2 vans, and it was an exact replica of the whole entire museum, and it was just awesome. It was fun, and we stayed for the party, and it was just really, really great. And so I think that was the biggest $5,000 cake I've ever done.
Yeah.
And that was actually the biggest, and I think the biggest one.
And it was massive. Like, it was like how many feet long? Like, it was crazy.
It was around. It barely fit in. I designed it to fit in the biggest van I could carry, my van. See, it was like, how big is it going to be? It's going to be big enough to fit in my van. That's all I cared about.
Yeah.
So that's like 96 inches long. So
yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. So fun. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I am loving hearing from my mom. And it's fun for me even too, because you have stories and pieces of stories I don't even know that I've never heard before. So I know many of you want to hear more from Mom, but we are going to break this up into a 2-part series. So tune in next week for your video training lesson, where we are going to keep talking to my mom, Darlene Thurber, and hear more lessons and wisdom on business. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you want to find out more about joining my online training and coaching group, the Business Boutique Academy, well, you can click the link below to join the waitlist.